On your Tuesday episode of Locked On Raptors, if you've ever wondered what does Sean do with his friends at a slumber party, well, you're going to find out on today's show with a stupid little game.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday, September the 2nd, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 11 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, link in the description of the podcast. And a great time right now as I'm fielding questions for a couple of vacation mailbags I'll be dropping later on. Great time to get in there. Drop your mailbag questions. It's the one way to get your questions to me by joining the Discord. Again, it's 100% free to join. We'd love to see you become part of our listener family over there. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We're off and running here on a Tuesday edition of the show with one of my favorite stupid little games we play. We haven't played this one in quite some time. It's Would You Rather? Yes, that favorite game of everybody from slumber parties and, whenever else you play it when you're a teenager. I don't know. We're going to run through some Toronto Raptors specific Would You Rathers regarding the rookies and guys we hope to see pop in areas where they've yet to pop. We'll talk about a couple of key potential guys in the top 6 of the rotation at the very least, taking big steps in areas where they badly need steps. We'll also get into a couple of deeper guys on the bench and throw some flowers Mamu's way because he's just kicking ass right now over in the Euros. Here to do all that with us here on this Would You Rather episode of the podcast is our favorite stupid little gamesman. It is Vivek Jacob. Big V, how the hell are you, pal?
I'm doing great, man. This is peak season for me. We got the U.S. Open on. We're starting to get back into the basketball mix of things. We got the Euro basket on, so let's get right into it.
Hell yeah. All right, let's start with our first Would You Rather of today's stupid little game. Again, this is 2 sort of extreme potential outcomes, and I think what they've kind of the theme kind of going through here is today is like stuff that would kind of change the game for the Toronto Raptors team this coming season if they were to happen, sort of various player developments. We're going to start with Gradey Dick and Brandon Ingram. Would you rather, Big V, Gradey Dick become a league average defender this season or see Brandon Ingram launch 7 3-point attempts a game? Which of those 2 things do you think would have a bigger impact on the overall health of the Toronto Raptors? Gradey becoming a league average defender or Brandon Ingram launching 7 triples a game? Would you rather what?
I would rather Brandon Ingram shoot 7 threes a game.
Okay.
I think that, with Gradey, obviously we would love to see that, but I think there's enough cover at his position where, okay, even if that doesn't materialize, you've got other options to go to. I think if Ingram, say, for example, comes into the season and he's only putting up 3-4 threes a game, I think the Raptors' offensive construction becomes very, very difficult. And so I think that's why it's pretty much imperative that he puts up 6-7 threes a game. And, you don't want to take him too much outside of what he's comfortable with. But in terms of the starting lineup and having Scotty and Yak in there, you need the other 3 guys to get a healthy number of threes up. And so in terms of what the Raptors' overall outlook would look like, I think it matters more that Ingram gets up those threes.
I'm going to do my first pat of myself on the back for just a really good, hard question to answer, because I think both things would be pretty awesome for the Toronto Raptors if they took place. I hear the argument for Ingram for sure, right? Like, I think if he is out there launching threes like he did, frankly, at the start of this past season with the Pelicans, where he took 6.4 a game in 33 minutes a game. You go back to his all-star year in his first year with the Pelicans back in 2019-20, where he took 6.2 a game over the course of 34 minutes a night. Like, yeah, that would be absolutely transformative for how this team can play. And I think a lot of those are going to have to come in the form of catch and shoots, which our pal S. Barrett Henny was on the show a couple weeks ago and outlined that like most of Brandon Ingram's looks from three throughout his career have been catch and shoots, and he's damn good at them. And if he can be this agent of spacing who can attack the second side, draw closeouts, and then use his handle, his creative abilities to then continue to build and layer advantages throughout a possession, like that's absolutely game changing for the team. He can't just be kind of relegated to, I have the ball in my hands or I'm waiting for the ball back to go and, dribble for 14 seconds to do something with it. Like he's got to be there willing to take wide open threes. And I think he will be. I'm optimistic that that's going to be a thing. 7 threes is a lot. And I think I said it there exactly because I think, if he hits 6, if he's taking 6 a game, I think that's totally fine. And I'm going to go with Gradey Dick becoming a league average defender as my pick here of what I would rather. I think just like, his offensive impact is so clear to me. I know people, he doesn't shoot well at the rim. He can't hit threes. He's only shooting 35% from three. I don't care. Defenses are scared of him. Like it's way more than just the percentages with him. The way he moves, the way he draws attention, the gravity he has, and frankly, the difficulty of his three-point repertoire. It just matters that he's on the floor if the Raptors are trying to hit their offensive ceiling. And we talked about it last week when we dug into, Gradey's season as a whole and the really enormous season he has on deck. That's going to really, I think, determine what his career looks like. I just think having him on the floor in big moments is going to be the highest upside way for this team to play. And if he can be a league average defender, be better than RJ Barrett is defensively, which, that's probably a toss-up right now between the two. Maybe you give RJ the slight edge. If he can be a better defensive player a passable defensive player to make it so you can have his offense on the floor. You don't feel like you have to go with Ochai Agbaji or Jacoby Walter, who maybe bring a little bit less punch offensively. I just think those are going to be the best lineups for the team. And if you have a league average Gradey Dick playing next to quickly Ingram, Barnes, and Pirtle, that's a damn good lineup and a really tough one to go and poke at. My question to you, Big V, is like, when you imagine this, mystical league averaged Gradey Dick defensive season, what does that even look like? Because I don't know if it really takes the shape of like, he's just like a lockdown wing guy who's guarding the best player in other teams or anything like that. But is there even a pathway for him to be league average based on what you've seen and based on sort of what he's bringing to the table?
Yeah, I think it's mainly just recognizing, the Raptors recognizing opportunities where they can kind of peel switch and like have different situations where they can hide him, and then him just kind of holding his own in those situations. And, him not ideally like he has his head on a swivel more. I think that's where sometimes he's kind of gotten lost in plays, and that's a big area of improvement that I'll be looking for. And then other than that, I think he has good rebounding instincts.
Yep.
I think we've seen that on the offensive glass as well. So I wouldn't mind seeing him being more of a contributor on the defensive boards. And especially, when you get hidden in those situations, I think that's the main thing too, right? It's like, hey, like, okay, you're no longer like really involved in this play. Make sure you box out your man. Make sure you're helping kind of get on the glass and help the Raptors get down the floor for a possession.
Yeah, I also think like, can there be more defensive playmaking from him? Can he jump passing lanes a little more effectively? Can he be like a steal and a half a game guy just because he has the reads down? And I think just like watching him play basketball, he seems to have a pretty good understanding of the things that are happening on the floor, particularly on offense. But I do find that tends to translate to defense as well. Can that anticipation be there for him to be someone who can kickstart possessions the other way by hawking passing lanes responsibly, not just like selling out to do it, of course, like, picking your spots effectively. But yeah, like, again, it's not going to be in the form of he's just the guy who's, gearing up to guard the best wing on every other team. But to your point, can he switch capably? Can he be someone that teams find it's just not worth the hassle of trying to pinpoint him and find that matchup every single time down the floor? Because that's what'll play him off the floor if he is going to close games, right? If you're in crunch time and he's just this like glaring, festering, open wound of bad defense for the other team to go and target, that's going to be how he plays himself off the floor. Can he just be strong enough to hold up on switches, wait for the help to come, all that type of stuff? Yeah, I think it would be pretty transformative for his game and for, again, the higher upside lineups the Raptors could theoretically roll out there. But hey, if both guys want to do these things, That's going to be the case throughout this entire show. I'm perfectly okay if we don't have to choose a would you rather here and just both things happen. What a glorious world that would be. We're going to come back on the other side, talk about a couple rookies who I dug into on my last show last week and who have a couple of pretty glaring needs when it comes to shooting accuracy from various parts of the floor. We'll do that coming up in just one sec as we continue Would You Rather Tuesday. Today's show is brought to you by friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have a full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why Monarch Money is here. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. I've talked about this before. I hate doing admin, whether it's personal admin, I got to get stuff renewed, whatever. It stinks. I don't like it. And this applies very much to my bank accounts as well. I just don't want to have to go through all the different apps and rigmarole of, syncing up different things. It's okay. Monarch Money does it all in one place and can give you the clear picture of your financial situation, let you know where your money's going, where it's coming out of, all that good stuff. And if you have a partner that you share accounts with or you share investments with, whatever it might be, it's a wonderful thing to get you both on the same page as well. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. Go check it out. Back at it here with Big V, Vivek Jacob from Raptors in 7, from Basketball Insiders, from cricket stuff on my Instagram, from probably playing yard games at your local park and looking handsome doing it. Big V, let's continue on here with the next one I have for you. It is a rookie-related one tied to Jamal Shead and Jonathan Mogbo, both of whom I talked about last week as guys who kind of sneakily have a lot to play for this year, as second-round guys who have pretty glaring holes in their games that, there's not a whole lot of time for them to sort things out before decisions have to be made as to whether or not they're going to be part of the team long-term going forward. Let's get to this one. What would you rather? Jamal Shead hits 37% of his threes this season, up from 32.3% as a rookie, or Jonathan Mogbo hits 65% of his twos, up from 48.6% as a rookie. What you got here, Big V? Would you rather Jamal Shead figure out the three-point stroke or Jonathan Mogbo figure out how to score from two?
Yeah, I'm taking Jamal Shead here pretty handily. I think he just has a more important role on the team being the backup point guard. The Raptors are going to need him to be effective, to be productive. And so I think him having a three-point shot at 37% would be extremely helpful to this team. Jonathan Mogbo, again, it's about the bodies that are in front of him. We've seen Sandro do some really good, nice things in Eurobasket. We've obviously got Colin Murray-Boyles in the mix now. So if he doesn't quite hit, it's not as consequential. And so for that reason, give me Jamal knocking down 37% of his threes.
Yeah, I think that's a fair answer, and probably where I'm going to go here as well. Let me lay out the case for Mogbo. I think, let me say this. I'd say Mobo's career probably hinges more upon his thing happening here than Jamal Shead's thing happening here in this would you rather scenario. Like, as I went through on Friday's show or Thursday, whatever the hell day it was, Jonathan Mogbo just has to figure out a way to score from somewhere, find a bread and butter on the floor. Again, I think the short roll area is probably where that's going to come. And I do think, based on what he did in college, and I think some of the signs he showed last year of progression, it's not off the table that he can figure out how to be a threat from 12 feet and in and kind of make that his bread and butter as a player. But we lost Big V on the camera. Oh no, it's so much less handsome on the show right now. I'll continue as he sorts out his camera. But yeah, when it comes to Jamal Shead hitting threes for this year's team, if Jamal Shead can bang 37% of his threes, it totally changes his utility as a player. Now, it's probably going to take some time for defenses to care about him taking those threes. He's back. It's not going to be an instant thing where he hits his threes and, the first week he starts doing it, defenses are going to start closing out on him and making things difficult. But it's going to have to be a slow progression. That's always the case with three-point shooting. But if he can get there, then there's no reason he can't be in the league for 12 years. It's just like a really damn good backup point guard who gives all the stuff you need from a really damn good backup point guard. I think if I just made this straight up Mogbo hits 37% of his threes or Shead hits 37% of his threes, I might have gone Mogbo here because I do think Mobo's path to carving out a more than like a niche gadget player role is probably some sort of outlier growth as a 3-point shooter. He shot like 23% last year. And to his credit, he took threes after never taking threes in college ever. And so that he hit 23% of them in the NBA is actually like not terrible. It's a nice step forward, but it's a long way from 23% to mid to high 30s%. And so I just don't think that's terribly realistic, though. If that happens, then things totally change here for Mogbo, and the trajectory for him becomes a whole lot more interesting. But I'm with you. I will go Jamal Shead, 37% on his threes is what I would rather see happen here. How confident do you feel in the Jamal Shead backup point guard experience, Big V? I talked about this on Friday or Thursday. Again, what are days? Who knows? I think it was Thursday now because it was the long weekend. And I left on Friday for a little trip to my parents' house. What a lovely time it was. But when it comes to Shead, I have mixed feelings on this. I think he's pretty integral to, like, if they're going to have this sort of nasty pain in the ass identity on defense, like, I think he's got to be a big part of it. I also think there might be enough in terms of other creation on the team where he kind of gets squeezed a little bit because you just rather have obviously quickly playing a whole lot of point guard minutes and then maybe RJ filling in as your de facto bench point guard. Ingram's going to have the ball quite a bit. Barnes is going to have the ball quite a bit. And a lot of these guys just need shooting around them. What do you feel about the Jamal Shead backup prospects? Like, are you hopeful he can be a sort of contributor to winning in a way he just wasn't last year as a rookie? Understandably so. It was a bad situation and rookies stink. But where are you at on your sort of level of optimism that he actually can be the backup point guard to kind of break this team's very long streak of only ever having one guard who you trusted at any given time?
Yeah, if I'm being totally honest, I do feel like he's in the backup role probably a year ahead of schedule.
Sure.
And I do think that in an ideal world, there'd be someone better than him in the backup role, and he'd still be the third point guard and be challenged to kind of take that backup role as opposed to him just de facto, by default entering that role. At the same time, I do think the Raptors have enough talent in the starting five to stagger their lineups in a way that makes life easier for Jamal Shead. And so I think that is going to be the key for Darko Rajakovic in terms of his Jamal Shead usage and like figuring out who are the right guys to have around him to ease his burden in terms of the offense. And I think you can still be pretty effective and maybe have him, punch above his weight for maybe where he should be going into his second year.
Yeah, I think where it's going to, kind of create tension with Shead and this sort of decision making in the rotation for Darko and the coaching staff is like, at what point do you feel like you need to have, say, the shooting of Jamison Battle or Mamu on the floor over Jamal Shead's, point of attack defense and, sketchy shooting in a world where he doesn't actually hit 37% of his threes like we're talking about here? And I think that's where he's probably going to get squeezed, right? It's just like, okay, we could have this traditional point guard out there, or we could just kind of do creation by committee and just surround those creators with as much shooting as we could possibly muster through Gradey, through Walter. You're going to want to play Colin Murray Boyles too, and I don't think you're going to play Jamal Shead at his expense because I think you're just way more invested in Murray Boyles long term. He's your most important prospect now, arguably. And so I think that is where, when I look at how the rotation breaks down, there's really only 3 bench guys, I guess 4 bench guys, who I feel like certain are going to play regular minutes. It's Gradey, it's Walter, it's Murray Boyles, and it's Ochai. And I think even Walter could find himself on the outs at times just because there's a lot of competition at that spot. And he's still a little bit away in terms of offensive refinement. But I don't think it's like a full-on conclusion that Jamal Shead's going to play a lot of minutes. Like I think he's going to have to earn them quite a bit. And I think the 3-point shot's just going to kind of have to be there. Otherwise, they're just going to have different lineup constructions that I think make a little more sense and have more space for the guys who need the space. But I'm hopeful. Like, I love Jamal Shead. He's cool as hell. I really want it to work. I want him to hit his threes, and I want him to stick around long term because he's an exceptionally easy guy to root for. And hopefully he can figure it out. We'll come back into the side here, Big V, we just talked about Mamu and Ochai, a couple of guys in the Raptors bench, second, third tier guys in the depth chart who may be inclined to climb the depth chart. We'll talk about which guy we'd rather see find themselves promoted to a new position over the course of the season. We'll do that coming up in just 1 second. Before we continue on, though, got to ask for your help, you beautiful, beautiful listeners out there. We're doing a survey over at Locked On to get a little bit more information on our listeners and what you guys like, what you don't like. And this is your chance to tell us what you like and don't like and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes that is a survey will be entered for a chance to win up to 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's Locked On Podcasts. That's pluralized.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes or go to the QR code on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you for helping us out. We very much appreciate you. All right, closing things out here with Big V, Vivek Jacob, as we continue to play our slumber party game. Would you rather? Toronto Raptors edition. And let's get to a couple bench guys here who could be in line if things break right to improve their standing within the team, compared to sort of what they're projected to be right now. We've got Ochai Agbaji, who is, I think, penciled in right now as a bench wing, who is going to be in heavy competition with RJ Barrett, Gradey Dick, and Jacoby Walter for minutes, and who is in the final year of his rookie contract. And so there's something riding on this season for him as well going forward, whether it's with the Raptors or somewhere else. A lot on the line for Ochai Agbaji as he looks to get paid after this year. Then you have Mamu, who right now is cooking over for Georgia in the Eurobasket, helped Georgia beat Slovenia and is yamming on dudes and seems to be having a great time. By the way, I'm going to really try to get our pal Dave Dufour on the show, who's an assistant coach for the Georgia national team, to talk about Mamu at some point in the weeks to come. That'll be fun. Either way, he's busy right now. We'll get him after the tournament. But my question to you, Big V, as it pertains to these two guys is, what would you rather see? Mamu becomes the full-time backup for 15 to 20 minutes behind Jakob Poeltl, just the clear backup center, or Ochai Agbaji supplants RJ Barrett for the starting two-guard job. Again, just kind of guys potentially in line for more than they thought, or we thought they were going to get coming into the year. What would you rather see? Mamu as the full-time backup or Ochai jumping into the starting five?
Yeah, you know what? Even as the president of the Ochai fan club, I am going to have to say that seeing Mamu establish himself and become the backup center for 15-20 minutes a night is probably the better scenario for the Raptors big picture. I say that because if RJ gets demoted, it probably means a couple of things. One, it means that something has gone wrong with the starting lineup. It's not working. And two, the Raptors are just not playing well as a team and they need a big change. And so I think for those reasons, I would rather have Sandro establish himself as the backup five. I love Ochai. I think he's shown last season that he can be a quality 8th, 9th man in a good rotation. But for him to become the starting guard, it means that, like I said, the starting five is just not clicking at all, that RJ is just not defending well at all. He's not being efficient. And so for those reasons, give me Sandro.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. And look, this is not an easy one for me because I do think the idea of Mamu being the full-time backup probably means that they're not playing some of the more fun lineups I think they can roll out with Colin Murray-Boyles and Scotty Barnes playing the five. But he's, I guess, more traditional. I mean, he's not really more traditional. He's 6'9". He's basically Chris Boucher. He's not really a classic center, but as a spacing agent, as someone who's a different change of pace from what Jakob Poeltl provides, like there is, I think, an avenue there for him to kind of carve out that backup spot for this team. And yeah, I think if Ochai is starting, it just means some things have gone pretty wrong. RJ's not fitting. It just doesn't work. Gradey Dick or Jacoby Walter haven't grabbed that position, by the horns and said, this is mine. And so you're kind of, not to say it's like, you're sort of feeling obligated to just like, well, I guess we'll throw Ochai in there because he's a useful player. But I think if you're looking at who they're more invested in long-term, Gradey and Jacoby are very clearly ahead of Ochai on that list right now. And so you would hope that if they are going to make a starting lineup change, it's because one of those guys is just playing so well that you just have to make it, and you're kind of all right with that. But I think it's far more likely if Ochai is in that spot, it's because those guys have kind of stagnated. It's not really working, and RJ's having trouble too. And it's kind of just like, well, let's see what we can do here. Let's try to throw anything at the wall to salvage what might be a rough start to the season if this transpires. Where, yeah, if Mamu comes in and is just this like excellent spacing agent, putting up above the break threes as a guy who's making like no money. I mean, he'll play himself into a bigger contract, likely on a new team next year, as he's got that player option for the second year on his contract. But great for him in that situation as well. If we get 1 year of scorched earth Mamu, I'm totally fine with that as well. How much are you putting into him totally showing out at the at Eurobasket right now, Big V? Are you getting Dennis Schroeder pilled watching Mamu? Like, this happened, of course, a couple of years ago when Schroeder won MVP of the World Cup, and everyone's like, see, they got the MVP to be their point guard. And I'm sitting here like, this is not what Dennis Schroeder is in the NBA. These are two very different environments. Don't trick yourselves. But, I love being right about things once in a while. But, Mamu, obviously a little bit lower stakes. He's not going to be the starting point guard and only man who can dribble on the team. That's helpful. Are you putting any stock into him being an absolute beast in Eurobasket right now?
I think the stock is just like in terms of getting to know and understand his game better. Like, I haven't watched him a ton in his NBA career so far. So that's the part where it's like, okay, just getting to understand what he has. And obviously he's got a bit more of an expanded role and leash on his national team. And so I think taking something away from that is good. Am I expecting him to carry over those things to the NBA? No. That I will wait and see what he's capable of in the NBA. At the end of the day, I do view FIBA and the NBA as quite different games. And so that presents different challenges. And I think FIBA basketball is just more catered to him having success in that format. And we'll see how much of that can carry over. So yeah, I'm in we'll see mode. I'm not going to get too excited.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. But I misspoke, by the way. The Georgia beat Spain and Mamu went off. This is the game I'm talking about, not Slovenia. Sorry to slander the Slovenians. I think they lost a bad game.
I mean, they've been losing anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, what I'm saying, Mamu's still better than Luka Doncic, even though they didn't play each other in that game. Still, obviously, clearly the superior basketball player. Okay, Big V. We're going to leave it there. A little shorter than usual, but I think that's good because we usually go way too long for the middle of August on a Raptors podcast. But anything you want to promote for the good people out there before we wrap this bad boy up?
Usual stuff. Sportscasting, Basketball Insiders, Raptors in 7. You can follow it on at Vivek Jacob.
Hell yeah. Coming up later this week. We'll see. Probably do a mailbag or something like that. Maybe get Katie Heinel on the show, talk about some stuff. And then next week, we're going to dig into the middle pack of the Eastern Conference with some other Locked On hosts covering those teams. I already recorded my show on the Pacers with Tony East. That's a lot of fun. That'll probably drop on Monday next week. And then while I'm on vacation for a couple of weeks, Big V is going to sub in for a couple episodes here and there. So those of you who were very sad when I returned to the show a month ago after Pat leave, that Big V was no longer hosting the show every day. Guess what? He's back, baby. He's got all the logins now, so he can pop in and fill in for me once in a while, which is a very nice thing that I have a newborn around and takes up a lot of my time and brain energy. Either way, thank you so much for rocking with the show. We will be back again on Wednesday. Another episode of Locked On Raptors. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.
Ooh.